Would you like to learn how to make a pretty point pendant necklace with blue beads and a pair of earrings as well? Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're doing well. If you're new, a huge welcome to you. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I'm super excited today because we're going to be making that gorgeous point pendant necklace and a pair of earrings as well. And we're going to be using the beads that came in the latest GGC Treasure bag. I believe it was released about a month ago. And the contents of that bag were absolutely gorgeous. Now, if you're not familiar with GGC Treasure bag, I will leave a link down below so you can go to the website and check it out. It's actually not a subscription, it's a limited edition release, and it gets released every couple of months, I think. But anyway, if you want more information, go to the website and check it out. And don't forget to sign up for notifications if you're interested in buying that bag. It usually sells almost immediately after it gets released. So anyway, guys, today's tutorial is actually pretty easy. And I think if you're a beginner, you're in the right place. And if you're advanced, you're welcome here as well, of course, because I like to give you inspiration. I know I get inspiration from other creators as well. Well, I shouldn't really say inspiration. What I really get from other creators are techniques and tips, I think. I'm actually one of those people that gets less inspired when I see other people's designs. A lot of it has to do with the fact that I want to be original and I don't want to be influenced by anybody or anything. I know that sounds silly, but that's how I am. But anyway, guys, like I was saying, I think today's design is going to be very easy to make. And if you don't have the beads, you can still make it. You're just going to have to compromise and use beads that are similar. I'm going to leave a list of all the materials down below in the description section of this video. If you'll scroll all the way down, you'll see it. I'm also going to leave timestamps if you want to skip forward to any portion of the video. And before we get started, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please think about doing so. And if you have a little bit of time, I would love to hear what you think about today's tutorial. If you could leave some comments down below, I would really appreciate it. So anyway, guys, I don't want to keep talking. I'm very anxious to jump into the tutorial. So let's go ahead, turn the camera around, and we'll get started. And here we have the GGC Treasure bag. The name of this bag is Midnight Blue. This bag was released about a month ago. And if you're watching this video sometime in the future, today's February 26, 2023. So obviously the bag is no longer available. These bags sell out almost immediately after they get launched. Now, if you missed out on buying the bag, you might want to go to the GGC Treasure store online because sometimes the items are available individually. But anyway, guys, this is a limited edition bag. It's not a subscription. And obviously I've already done an unbagging video. So if you're curious about what's in the bag, I'll leave a link down below so you can go check out the video. So what I'm going to do now off camera is pull out the strands that we're going to be using for today's necklace. So let me go do that and I'll be right back. Here are the items we're going to be needing for today's necklace. And if I have time, I'll see if I can make a pair of earrings at the end. But let me go over the materials with you. What inspired today's necklace was this beautiful point pendant. It's a simulated turquoise point pendant and it measures 60 millimeters in length and 13 millimeters across. As you can see, it already has a bail and everything. So anyway, this is the pendant we're going to be using. I also have a toggle clasp. As you can see, it's in a gunmetal color. The bag came with 6 sets, and we're going to be using one of them today. Let me go over these beads with you. This is a strand of 4mm size glass beads. They're called draw bench glass beads, and the color is sky blue. This is a super long strand, so we're going to be using a whole bunch of these beads throughout the entire necklace. Let's take a look at these. These are bicone crystals, as you can see. They're 6 millimeters in size, and the color is deep sky blue. These are rondelles. They measure 6 by 6 millimeters, and the color is opaque blue, but they're also half plated with black. But because of the plating, it's actually not a very dark black. It looks more like gunmetal. I really like these. We're going to be using a couple of beads from this collection. We're actually going to be using the 2 blue ones that you see right there. These are imitation Austrian crystal flat rounds, and they measure 12 by 6 millimeters. Let me show you these. These are called electroplated crackle pattern glass beads. They measure 8 millimeters in size, And the crackle pattern is actually a little on the metallic side. I really like it. Let me show you these. These are also Austrian crystals. They're rondelle beads and they measure 9 by 7 millimeters. And we're going to be using the blue ones for the necklace. And then I'll probably use a couple of black ones for some earrings. Now these are really tiny and I'm actually only going to use 2 of these. I'm going to use these by the pendant so the pendant hangs properly, and I'll show you later on what I mean. But these are pretty small. They're 4 millimeters in size. And the color is silver gray, and as you can see they're faceted. So these are all the materials from the bag. I might use the chain that came in the bag as well for the earrings. I'm not sure yet. If I do, it's only going to be a small amount. I'm going to be using some beading wire, and this is by Beadalon, and it's 49 strand. It measures 0.018 of an inch in diameter, or 0.46 millimeters, and it's in a silver color as you can see. And those are all the main items. I will be using some crimp beads and crimp bead covers, and probably some clamshell covers as well, but I'll pull those out later on when we get ready to finish the necklace. So let me go ahead and remove the beads off the strands and I'll be right back. Here are the beads for the bottom part of the necklace. We're going to work on that first. The bottom part of the necklace will consist of 2 strands. One will be approximately 5.5 inches long and the other one will be about 6 3/4 inches long. I am going to be using a couple of seed beads at each end. I forgot to mention that earlier. They're size 11/0 seed beads and they're in an antique silver color. And the reason we're using those is because I want to have something very small where the 2 strands are going to meet, and I'll show you later on what I mean. I do want to show you something though, guys. These 2 beads are stuck together, and the reason they're stuck together is because of the paint effect, but that's very easy to fix. I'm going to use some flush cutters and I'm very gently going to cut them apart. Just like that. That happens a lot with these kinds of beads. It's actually very common. Now I've already played around with the design, so I kind of know what I'm doing. I know many of you are wondering about my process, but basically what I do is I make some sketches ahead of time, and then I do test out the beads to make sure that everything's going to work out. And the reason I do all that is because I want my tutorials to flow smoothly. To arrange the bead patterns, I use something called a magic rod. I have 2 of them here. I carry these in my Etsy store, and these are the 12-inch rods. I do have some that are shorter for bracelets, and they're 9 inches long. But I like to use these for necklaces. And obviously I know not everybody has these, so you can use either a scrap piece of beading wire or just arrange your beads on a beading board. I'm going to use one of them today. What I like about these rods is that they come with little stoppers. So once I arrange the bead patterns, I can bring those stoppers in so the beads are up against each other and I can get accurate measurements. And the other thing I like about these rods is that I can load large beads, medium and small beads, and seed beads all on the same rod. So anyway, you'll see in a few moments how I use it. I'm going to remove the stopper, and I'm going to start by loading 2 of these seed beads. And now 4 of these drawbench beads. And now one of these opaque ones with the black plating. These are the ones that measure 6 millimeters. And now one of these 8 millimeter beads with the crackle pattern, the electroplated crackle pattern, and another one of these. And let me load these 2 again. So now I'm going to repeat the same pattern 2 more times. And this is what we have so far. So now I'm going to load the crystal beads, the Austrian crystal, and one of these little tiny 4 millimeter beads. And now the pendant. And if you'll notice, the loop of the pendant is quite large, which is why I'm using that 4 millimeter round bead. It's actually going to sit right inside like that. And I know I'm using the pendant unconventionally. Normally people use it the other way. Normally people use it this way. But I want to use it this way today to make things easy. Let me load the other one. And another one of these Austrian crystals. As you can see, that loop sits really nicely in between those 2 little round beads. So now I'm going to repeat the exact bead patterns on this side. As you can see, I've loaded all the beads for the bottom strand. Let me go ahead and put the stopper on this end. And now I'm going to bring the stoppers in. I want to make sure those beads are up against each other so I can measure. Let's see how long it is. It's approximately 6 3/4, and that's what I want. So now I'm going to place it off to the side. I have another rod here. I'm going to work on the top layer now. And again, I want to load 2 of these seed beads. But this time I'm going to load 9 of these draw bench beads. So this is what we have so far. And now I'm going to load 5 of these. And they're going to have these 6mm beads in between. And that looks really nice. So now I'm going to finish with the draw bench beads on this side. As you can see, I've loaded both rods, and I did make a little change. I made the top one a little bit shorter. Instead of having 9 of these 4mm beads, I have 7. Let me go ahead and measure it. It measures about 5 inches. So they should drape nicely at the bottom of the necklace. So now we're going to load them on beading wire. I'm going to cut myself 2 pieces. One piece will be very long, it'll be 30 inches long, and the other piece will be much smaller, between 8 and 9 inches. I'm going to load the bottom rod first. So let me put this one off to the side. And here's my long piece of beading wire. I'm going to place a clip at one end. You can use a bead stopper if you want to. Let me show you how to offload from the rod. You want to hold on to this end like this and then very carefully slide the stopper off this end. And now I'm just going to grab the beads. And because the rod holds the beads in alignment, I can actually load all 4 at the same time. Just like that. If I have bead patterns, I don't usually do that because I don't want to lose the integrity of the pattern. But if you have beads that are the same, you can certainly do that. So I'm going to keep loading these beads. As you can see, I've loaded both strands, so now we just need to connect them, and I'm going to do that by using some crimp tubes. I'm going to thread these on before I crimp the 2 strands together. I'll be using some bead along crimp tubes, and these are size 2. And here are my crimp tubes. Here are some crimp tube covers. They're in a gunmetal color. So let me show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to thread on this crystal. And this is the long piece of beading wire. And I'm going to thread the end of this short one into the same crystal. The hole of this bead is big enough to accommodate both beading wires. So now I'm going to thread on one of the crimp tubes. Bring it down, and I'm going to thread the shorter piece into the same crimp tube. So I have both of them going through the crimp tube, as you can see. So now I just need to crimp that crimp tube, and to help keep the beading wire separated, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be using my crimping pliers, and these are by Xuron. I'm going to place the tube inside that first notch. That's the notch that creates the V shape. And now I'm going to crimp down, turn it sideways. I'm going to place it in one of the first 3 notches. I usually choose the middle one. As you can see, there are 3 notches at the tip. Let me just put it in here and then I'll show you. As you can see, it's in that middle notch. And now when I squeeze, it'll fold over that crimp tube. I usually go to the first notch as well to tighten it up a little bit. And sometimes I use the tip. So that's what you should have. Now I know a lot of people don't like to cut the tail off, or they leave a little bit of a tail. I actually don't do that because I've had a lot of occasions where the tail's actually popped out of the beads, and there's nothing more uncomfortable than having a piece of beading wire poking you. So I usually cut it off. I feel that if you do your crimping properly, there shouldn't be any worries about the beading wire sliding out. So I usually cut it off. I'm going to use my flush cutters. And now I'm going to slide on one of these crimp tube covers. Let me see if I can grab it with these crimping pliers. And slide it on. And now I'm going to close it. You do need to take your time when you do this, because you don't want to dent that crimp tube cover. And I usually go around the whole bead to make sure I get a nice round shape. So that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to slide the beads down. Let me flip it over. I'm going to do the exact same thing now to this end. As you can see, I crimped off the other end, and it's looking really pretty so far. I'm pretty happy with the way it drapes, and I like the distance between this one and this one. So now I'm going to load 2 more rods with the beads that I'm going to be using for the rest of the necklace, and I'm going to do it off camera to save time, and I'll be right back. As you can see, I've loaded 2 more rods, and these are going to finish off the necklace. Each one of these measures about 8 inches, maybe a little bit more. Obviously, you can make yours as long as you want, but let me show you what I did. This end's going to go at the bottom, and as you can see, I have 10 of the draw bench beads, and then I have 2 of these opaque blue 6mm beads, and here's a rondelle. And I repeated the same pattern, 10 draw bench beads, but this time I used a bicone in the middle in between the 2 6mm beads. And then I loaded 10 more of these draw bench beads and another set with a bicone, and I ended with 10 draw bench beads. So that's basically it. So now to save time, I'm going to go ahead and load them on the necklace off camera, and I'll be right back. As you can see, I've loaded all the beads, and now we're ready to finish the necklace off. I'm going to use crimp tubes and clamshell covers for the top of the necklace. Here are my crimp tubes and my clamshell covers. So let me show you how to do this. I'm going to take a clamshell cover, and I'm going to feed the beading wire through the bottom, just like that. And now crimp tube. Now for this method, we need to squash that crimp tube, and in order for me to reach in there easier, I'm going to open up the clamshell cover. I'm using some flat nose pliers, and I'm just going to open it up a little bit like this. And now using some chain nose pliers, I'm going to reach in here and grab that tube, and once I have a hold of it, I'm going to tug on the beading wire a little bit, and now I'm going to go ahead and squash it. You want to make sure you squash it really well. You should always test it to make sure it's secure. And I know some of you are concerned about this method, and I can tell you guys that it's very, very secure. I've actually tested it many times, and I even had my husband test it, and he's pretty strong, and he couldn't get that crimp tube off. So now I'm going to cut off the excess beading wire, and I'm going to close this clamshell cover. And that's all there is to it. I love this method because it's easy and it gives you a very professional finished look. So now I'm going to do the same thing to this end. So now I'm going to attach the toggle clasp. Here's a toggle clasp and jump rings. Let me open up a jump ring. I'm going to attach one portion of the toggle clasp. And now I'm going to attach one of the strands and close up the jump ring. You do want to make sure you close your jump rings really well. And the reason is that the loops on the clamshell cover are pretty skinny. And that's one of the reasons I like to use the ones with 2 loops instead of 1. So now let me open up this jump ring. Attach the other portion of the toggle clasp. And now I'm going to attach it to this strand. And close it up. Let me do it up and I'll lay it out on my board. It's always a challenge for me to display such long necklaces. I can't fit it within the frame of the camera, and then I end up having to double it up like this. But I think you get the idea. So now we're going to make a quick pair of earrings. Let me get the materials for that and I'll be right back. Here are the materials for the earrings. As you can see, I've already built one. It has one of the opaque blue 6mm rounds, the 8mm bead with a crackle effect, and one of the Austrian crystal rondelles. I also have 2 of the 6mm bicones, and I did use a little bit of the chain that came in the bag. You can use any kind of chain if you don't have it, but the links measure 4 by 3mm, and as you can see, it's in a gunmetal color. I've cut myself a little piece, as you can see. I'm going to be using some 20 gauge wire, and this one's actually in a gunmetal color, but you can use black if you want to, or silver. I have 2 ball head pins. I didn't have gunmetal, so I'm using silver. Let's go ahead and mount these first 3 beads. And I'm going to do a simple loop, so I'm going to grab the wire at the top, kink it, and now using round nose pliers, I'm going to grab the end, making sure that it's flush, and I'm going to loop it. Make sure your loop is nice and straight on your pin. And you want to make sure your loop is nice and closed, just like that. And now let's go ahead and load the beads. I'm going to grab the wire at the top of the bead, line up the bottom loop, kink it, and I'm going to form another loop at this end. This loop's going to be a little bit smaller than the other one. And once again, you want to make sure it's nice and closed, just like that. Let me go ahead and open it up and attach the ear wire hook. And close it up. And now let's work on the dangles. I'm going to grab a ball head pin, thread on the bicone, and this time I'm going to do a wrap loop. So I'm going to grab the pin where the bead is, just like that, kink it, switch to this portion of the wire or the pin, take the tail, wrap it around the nose of my pliers, flip the pliers around, and continue to wrap that tail to the back. Just like that. And now I'm going to attach the chain. I'm not going to cut the chain just yet. Let me open up this loop a little bit to make it easier. I'm going to slide it into the loop I just made. Like that. I'm going to grab the loop with my skinny pliers. These are my crimping pliers. I like to use them for this purpose. And now I'm going to grab the tail with another set of pliers, and I'm going to do a couple of wraps. You can do as many wraps as you want. Using my flush cutters, I'm going to cut off the excess pin. And you definitely want to tuck in any little end that's sticking out. So now that bicone's connected, I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other end now. And once again, I'm not cutting the chain just yet. As you can see, both bicones are connected, and I found this method to be the easiest way when you're working with short pieces of chain like this. I probably could have done with less chain, but as you can see on this piece here I have 4 links, and on this one I only have 1 link. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to cut off the links that I don't need. That one has 1 link. And now I need to cut off the 5th link on this one. So this one has 4 links and this one has 1 link. And now we just need to connect them to the component. Let me open up the loop. I'm going to connect the little one first, and then the longer one. Just like that. And close it up. So here are 2 adorable earrings that are going to go perfectly with the necklace. Let me bring out the necklace and I'll show you the entire thing. So here's the entire set, and I think it turned out really beautiful. I love the blues and the blacks together, and I like the way the 2 bottom strands drape. I also love the touch of sparkle here and there. I think it really adds to the whole design. Let me just pan down so you can see the bottom of the necklace. There's the pendant. And let me pan up. There's the top. So anyway guys, as always, I'm going to go ahead and model the necklace. So let me go ahead and put it on and I'll see you in a few moments. Well, what do you think of this necklace? Isn't it gorgeous? I absolutely love it. It's so easy to get inspiration when you have such gorgeous beads. And the GGC Treasure bags are always beautiful. One of my viewers left a comment one day that they couldn't understand me whenever I said GGC Treasure bag. It is a tongue twister. I always try to pop up the name on the screen though in the beginning of the videos usually. And of course I always have it down in the description section. But anyway guys, I really like how this necklace and earring set turned out. I think it's really pretty. I love the combination of the blue and the gunmetal and the black. I hope I've given you some ideas. I hope I've given you some inspiration. I hope you can make your own. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye.